Some men see things as they are and ask why. Others dream things that never were and ask why not. George Bernard Shaw, 1856 to 1950. Outside a bagel shop, a smiling young man grips a paper bag.
A growing number of people with developmental disabilities, or DD, are choosing to guide their own lives and their day-to-day activities
Using a laptop.
instead of relying on state administrators and outside agencies to make decisions for them.
Water therapy.
These individuals and the advocates they choose are the experts on what services they want and who will provide them.
Shaping dough.
This rapidly growing movement, which empowers individuals to recruit and hire their own support staff, is known as self-direction and now includes over 1,400 Marylanders with DD.
What is a developmental disability? A smiling young man wears a smock and uses a wheelchair.
A developmental disability is a physical and/or mental impairment manifested before the age of 22 that substantially impacts a person's ability to live, learn, or work in their community.
A wheelchair ramp.
Some people with DD may only need assistance with straightforward tasks, such as transportation or mobility.
A white cane.
Others may require significant support for every activity of daily life. But regardless of their intensity of need, everyone has the right to make their own life choices. Self-direction puts people with disabilities and their chosen advocates in the driver's seat.
The Maryland Department of Health logo.
Maryland's self-directed option for people with DD is administered by the Maryland Department of Health through the Developmental Disabilities Administration. It is funded with both state and federal dollars. Individuals assemble their own hand-picked person-centered planning team which focuses on their needs and their goals.
A meeting table.
The participant is always the center of the team, and creating and implementing a plan that meets their needs and wants is always the team goal.
Heather participates in a Zoom call.
Supporting team members typically include the required coordinator of community services, who is contracted by the state, an independent support broker who works for the person and can help design and implement the plan, family advocates, friends, and experienced employees or direct support professionals. A fiscal management service is also required. It works with the person-centered team to ensure compliance with state and federal regulations, to track expenditures, and to make sure employees are paid correctly and on time.
What do people say about self-direction? Tracy Davis, The Arc.
In my opinion, self-direction is incredibly empowering. Self-direction provides the opportunity for a participant employer to hire people from their own support network to function in paid roles. Another benefit to self-direction that I think that people sometimes forget about is that staffing ratios are 1-to-1, meaning there's one employee per person served at any given time. So that creates an opportunity for participants to explore their own unique interests and needs completely independent of the needs and interests of others. And that's not always the case in provider-managed delivery model, where staffing ratios are more typically one staff for every 2 to 4 people served. So that makes self-direction really unique.
Tim Lilly.
You know, I've been around the block in this field. I've worked for a lot of big names, and after a couple weeks, it always ends up, oh man, they pair you up with somebody you're supposed to be helping, but people are calling shots from the ivory tower who don't know the participant, don't know how they really learn, and you're now on the brunt of having to get them to do things they really maybe could care less about doing. Whereas in self-direction, it's literally, I work for him, and it's, well, what do you want to do, and how can we get you there?
It's working for an individual rather than working for a company.
It's learner-led. It's learner-motivated. It's learner-initiated, and you are there to, smooth out the edges to help them enhance their life.
I guess for self-direction, my definition will just be super independent.
I've never seen anything like it, actually. And I've seen, once again, remarkable progress, things that continue to surprise us.
I have learned that self-direction is freedom.
Who can work in self-direction? A snowboarder leans forward around a curve.
Anyone with DD can self-direct, and anyone with a passion for people can serve as a direct support professional or DSP.
Letters DSP form an acronym.
As a DSP, you will work directly with the participant and other team members to bring their goals to life. For people who plan to pursue careers in human services, working as a DSP provides valuable experience and is a natural choice. However, successful DSPs also include retirees,
Giving a cooking lesson.
career changers, and those who are just entering the workforce.
A young woman smiles.
Some are full-time, while others find the flexibility they need to work around family or schooling obligations.
Seeing off a kindergartner in front of a school bus.
Mostly they're students that are going into nursing, occupational therapy, special ed, speech therapy.
I would definitely look for like kind of care services and things like that, because it can't hurt to put it on your resume, but also the things that it provides you just in life experience is invaluable.
And this job is so flexible with hours. It's great because I can...
Savannah Madden.
I work with Lucy 3 days a week right now, and I can go to school the other days. And even when I go to school, the days I go to school, I can come here straight after. So it's been great.
Self-direction FAQs. FAQ number 1. Who is my employer?
The person to whom you're providing services is your employer. In many ways, the FMS acts as the administrative liaison because we're accessing the participants' funds to provide payment. The employer is fully in the driver's seat.
FAQ number 2. Who determines the wage?
The employer sets the employee's wage, and they have to do so within the parameters of their budget. So the employer communicates to the FMS the amount they wish to pay each employee, and then that set amount comes out of the participant's budget. It's as easy as that.
FAQ number 3. How will I get paid?
Another commonly asked question is, how do I get paid? Everyone wants to know how they get paid, understandably. FMS provides a bi-weekly payroll based on the services approved in the participant's plan and budget, only for whatever employer-approved timesheets are submitted.
What can people who work in self-direction expect from their employers?
The employer has certain authorities that should be respected, and in turn, the employer also has duties and responsibilities to their employees.
Training. Melissa Helkel, DSP, employed by John Kucher.
There's always somebody to help you with something that happens. So you're not left on your own at all.
Sunny Seferati.
I do have a whole handbook that I've written with all the expectations of my employees.
My first day was shadowing Joel, actually.
I have them start out
Karen Cardinale.
shadowing with someone else, and it's like a preceptorship. They'll work with an experienced caregiver and watch them and slowly take over some of the things that they're comfortable with and expand on that with someone right by their side the whole time until they're comfortable to do the whole thing by themselves.
It was really helpful shadowing him for the day. Joel's the one that introduced me into the whole world of John.
Communication.
My employees expect me to communicate with them.
If I text her, I can expect a response fast unless she's at work.
A set of instructions to do throughout the day.
They let you have a voice. They also let the person you're caring for, in whatever capacity that is, have their voice as well.
Sometimes his no's are pretty definite.
He's pretty firm in what he wants.
Lucy tells us what she wants to do.
The
Amanda Bradley.
communication I thought was going to be a little bit of a barrier, but I learned what he will do if he likes something. It was a process to learn the communication, but I think we got it down pat.
Teaming for success.
Robbie is definitely the team leader. People have learned the things that Robbie likes to do, and they base all their activities around, number one, how Robbie's physically feeling that day, and the activities that he likes to do.
The main goal, obviously, is John. John's independence and helping him be as independent as possible. So having a team
John loads a dryer.
with different members, you know, everybody has their own special insight.
For team meetings, we have this wonderful lady named Sarah.
She's an autism specialist.
She comes over and she sort of just pretty much asks, you know, for updates and progress on how John's doing. She may give advice for, you know, what we could work on, and she can give recommendations.
So it's really nice to talk with her because she has like a ton of insight. She has a lot of experience with people in John's situation.
Since we all see different aspects of John, ask like what we notice differently.
I love working with her.
Having employees present
CJ Shiloh.
in the meetings is really important. Even if they're not actively contributing to the meeting, I think it's really important that they're there because it gives them a really good sense of how the whole system works.
A diagram.
Who the CCS is, who the support broker is. And then sometimes the employees are the ones that have the greatest knowledge of the person that they're supporting and what the needs are.
So, you know, what I can tell you is that employers share with us regularly how important their employees are to them.
What do self-directed employers and advocates expect from their DSPs? Professionalism.
First and foremost, take your role seriously, be reliable, recognize that it's a legitimate job. You know, having an intellectual or developmental disability doesn't make someone less of a boss.
I expect them to give me 100% attention.
That you should be there 100%.
Respect.
I expect my employees to treat me with dignity and respect.
Melissa Silverman.
They need to treat me with respect, to be on time.
Lauren Jan.
I know she's my employer and she like holds me to being on time. Like when I'm not on time, she's like, I expected you to be here. And I'm like,
Nodding her head.
I agree. Like I should have been here earlier. Like she holds me to it.
Whoever you think doesn't have a lot to say probably has so much more to say than you ever knew.
He's a real individual.
Carol
A
Kuchar.
person that has feelings.
A sailboat ride.
Can understand most, if not everything, that's being said to him or around him in his environments. And to think that he can't is really a disservice to John.
I've definitely learned more patience.
Just to have extra patience.
Because it does take patience.
Like a little on the patience end of things, one thing that I've learned with Rob is when I'm waiting for that answer and communication, it's sometimes I just have to wait. Like he might want to tell me yes, and just because it's not in the first 2 seconds, it's not no just yet. So maybe I'll like wait and be patient with him, or maybe when I'm expecting a yes and he's really not into it, it's just like patience and keep trying until you find what works.
I think with folks who have special needs, we just want to teach them things, but we forget that those things have to hold some kind of value to them.
I would say the level of care that they should expect is the level of care that you would expect, the kind of care that you'd want for yourself.
Communication.
Especially with self-direction, we learn a lot about communication aspects and how to get across to people, and even just like be able to be that middleman and communicate his needs to others if others aren't completely understanding.
Joel Heckel.
I personally like to use gesture prompts because I'm not verbally saying what to do. So I feel that helps him learn faster. You can see what he actually knows because he's smart.
Communication, constant communication, and to be heard when you think something is off or wrong. I think that's one of the most important things for me, is that Lucy's family always listens to me when I say I feel like something's off or something's wrong, or I have an idea of how to help something in Lucy's life.
I think it's really imperative that you have good communication because they're with him like 12 hours of his 24-hour day. Mother's Day weekend 2 years ago, he got diagnosed with a brain tumor. One of his staff members back before we knew what was going on, we just knew like John wasn't quite he was regressing as far as what he could do. He didn't seem well. One of his staff members was the one that really had a talk with me about different things that he picked up.
So we were at the gym at Red Run Fitness, and he was working out. He used to, I guess, stim off. There's this red guy that's running.
A logo.
And he used to stim off it, like he would look at it, you know, from time to time. But I noticed he seemed to be doing it a lot more than normal. And like he was just so focused on it. And he wasn't really doing the exercises as much. So that's when I sort of noticed, I was like, something seems a little off. I mentioned to Miss Carroll, I said, can I, you know, talk to you when we get home? I felt like I knew him enough that it was just it wasn't normal. So eventually they did a bunch of tests, and the tests kept coming up like he was fine and all. Then eventually did an MRI, and they decided to do like the whole body, because they were gonna do like maybe like lower body and whatnot. So they did the whole body, and then they did the brain, and that's when they saw the tumor.
Around Labor Day, so in September, he had to have it all removed, the brain tumor, because it was growing, and it turned out to be stage 4 pineoblastoma, which is pretty aggressive tumor for which he had radiation therapy for. So fortunately, with self-directions, we were able to keep his staff, alter what his activities are, and, you know, gradually increase his activities to being able to do, you know, things as he could become more able to. There's John.
John leans over his mother's shoulder as she smiles. Expect-ability. The two words join to form ExpectAbility.
And then there's an alpaca farm that he goes to, and he gives the alpacas hay. And that's a really good job for John, because he's gotten super independent with that. Basically, he can just do that whole thing all by himself. So you just stand back and let John do what he's got to do.
At a gym.
It's been amazing. She's better at technology than probably any of my other bosses. Like, there was one morning where I had an emergency and I wasn't able to bring her or pick her up from work, but I could meet her here a little bit later. And so she was able to just quickly, she's like, it's okay, I'll just take an Uber. She called an Uber and then just met me here instead. And so that kind of thing, it was just incredible to just know that she's able to do that kind of stuff on her own. And that was like the first thing that I talked to her dad about, was that he was like, just, she's capable of so much more than you know. So like, don't treat her any differently. You're just here to help her out, and it's shown clearly.
You cannot judge a book by its cover, and you don't know what people are capable of, even if you think you do. I had someone tell me before, like, Lucy was pushing a shopping cart back in, and Lucy just threw it kind of back in front of it, and I said, Lucy, push the cart back in the shopping cart place. And the lady was like, oh, sweetie, you're doing great. And I was like, no, she's not. Push it back.
Why work in self-direction?
Choosing to work in self-direction is an opportunity to enrich another life and your own.
Smiling people.
To find untapped talents in yourself and powerful connections in a place you may never have imagined.
Joel and John smile.
Joel is like part of our family, is our third son. I don't know if it's exceptional or not, but I feel like, well, Joel is exceptional, but I also feel like having consistent, good people is vital to the success of this program.
So when I was working in a group home, it was just day in and day out, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, pills, more pills, and
a cluster of bottles.
You couldn't do much. You were so restricted under the things that you were able to do. So when I started working with Lucy, it opened up like this whole new world of, I felt like I could make a change in somebody's life rather than just being stuck wishing I could do things for people that I just wasn't able to do.
You can't really put a price tag on liking what you do. And it's a lot easier, I think, to like what you do if you're helping somebody figure out what they like and helping them do it.
It's definitely changed me as a person, and for the better.
It's taught me so much. It's shown me like exactly where I want to go in my career and who I want to work with and the type of person that I want to be when eventually I'm done school and I'm working in OT. I know like the therapist I want to be. And
Al has basically changed my whole life.
I had a love of just caring for people. So through working with Lucy, I ended up discovering I wanted to do a nursing program.
It can lead to a whole different career.
Yeah, I'm in school for nursing now.
I actually originally started on a master's in special education, but then I moved into a behavior analysis program.
At least 4 of Melanie's staff through the years have now become social workers.
Jim and Kathy Cooper.
I don't know, maybe a half a dozen nurses and special education teachers, regular ed teachers.
I'm probably going to start teaching at the university level. My ultimate vision would be to replicate what has occurred between Al and I using this behavioral science stuff across a larger group of people.
But people that work with Robbie end up loving Robbie. And even when they go off onto their professions, whether they're nurses in a hospital or speech pathologists in a skilled nursing center or wherever, a lot of them come back and fill in just because they love Robbie.
This is, I would say, by far the happiest job I've ever had.
Well, when it comes to whether I'm a caregiver or employee, I just really think of it as a friend.
Lucy's one of my best friends, and she's actually going to be in my wedding.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends.
I always say, like, I learned to be his caregiver first, and now I'm his friend.
In a swimming pool, a young woman smiles brightly, using flotation devices to support a grinning young man. For more information on self-direction, visit SDAN at marylandsds.org. Credits appear. Why Work in Self-Direction, funded by the ARC, Maryland, Self-Directed Advocacy Network of Maryland, Incorporated. Produced by Self-Directed Advocacy Network of Maryland, Incorporated. Written by Meg Schuster-Carter. Directed by Rob McQuay. Featuring Amanda Bradley, Karen Cardinale, Robbie Cardinale, Lucy Carter, Sonny Seferati, Jim Cooper, Kathy Cooper, Melanie Cooper, Tracy Davis, Joel Heckel, Melissa Heckel, Lauren Jan, Carol Kuchar, John Kuchar III, Tim Lilly, Savannah Madden, Melissa Silverman, C.J. Shiloh, and Al Wopat. Narrated by Rob McQuay. Project Facilitator and Supervisor, Meg Schuster-Carter. Camera Operators, Joseph Delamater, John Lefton IV, and Rob McQuay. Additional footage, Storyblocks Incorporated. Transcripts and captioning, Simon Says Incorporated. Audio Description Associates, LLC. Music, Corporate Motivation by Alex Bess. Licensed by Envato Market and Audio Jungle. Special thanks to SDAN members who contributed pictures and the ARC of the Central Chesapeake region. SDAN Board of Directors, Meg Carter, Sonny Seferati, Harold Custer, Patty Saylor, Gary Slatnick, Ashley Van Cleef, and Alicia Wopat. Copyright 2021, Self-Directed Advocacy Network of Maryland, Incorporated. Logos appear, SDAN, The ARC, Maryland, RM Productions.